My parents spent $240,000 on my sister's destination wedding in Greece. Flowers, fireworks, a private yacht dinner, everything. But when my baby needed an $11,000 surgery to survive, they said they were tapped out. 2 months later, their lawyer called, and that's when everything changed. My sister Grace had always been the golden child. The one who did everything right. Perfect grades, dream job, rich fiancé. My parents worshipped the ground she walked on. Me. I was responsible, but not exceptional. That's what my mum once said at Thanksgiving right in front of everyone. I laughed it off then, but deep down, it stung. When Grace got engaged to a man from a wealthy family, my parents treated it like a royal event. They rented a villa in Santorini, hired a private chef, even paid for matching designer dresses for the bridesmaids. The total cost, around $240,000, enough to buy a house. I didn't complain. I was happy for her. I even helped with the planning, despite being 7 months pregnant at the time. But just 2 months after the wedding, my baby boy, Noah, was born with a heart defect. The doctor said he needed surgery soon, nothing cosmetic, nothing elective. It was life-saving. The procedure and recovery would cost about $11,000. My husband and I had some savings, but not nearly enough. Insurance covered part of it, but we still needed help. So, for the first time in years, I called my parents and asked for financial support. Mum sounded distracted, almost irritated. "Honey, you know we just spent everything on Grace's wedding," she said. "Can't you set up a GoFundMe or something?" I was silent for a moment. "Mum, this isn't a vacation. It's surgery. For your grandson," she sighed. "We'll see what we can do, but things are tight right now. You know how expensive the villa was." I hung up, numbed that night, as I sat beside Noah's crib, listening to the monitor beep softly, anger mixed with heartbreak. My parents had flown 50 people to Greece for open bars and fireworks, yet couldn't spare a dime for their grandson's heartbeat. Still, I tried to believe maybe they'd come around. Maybe they'd realize what really mattered. But the next week, a family group chat message changed everything. Mum posted, "Grace and Ethan are honeymooning in the Maldives next month. Surprise gift from us." And that's when I realized. They didn't just choose not to help us, they never intended to. I stared at the group chat message, reading it over and over again. Surprise gift from us. The Maldives. 5-star resort. Overwater villas. The same parents who told me they couldn't help save my baby's life had just spent even more money on Grace's honeymoon. My husband, Daniel, saw the look on my face. "What happened?" he asked quietly. I turned my phone toward him. He read the message, blinked twice, and whispered, "They're unbelievable." The anger that had been simmering inside me finally boiled over. "They said they had no money," I said. "They looked me in the eye and said things were tight." He shook his head slowly. "You don't need them, Claire. We'll figure this out." But that was the problem. We couldn't. We'd already taken out a small loan. The surgery needed to happen soon, and every day we waited. Noah's condition got riskier. I sat up late that night, scrolling through my phone, trying to find answers, hospitals, payment plans, fundraisers. I even typed out a message to Grace, then deleted it 3 times before finally hitting send. "Hey, I hate asking this, but Noah needs surgery soon. Mum and Dad said they're tight on money, but maybe you could talk to them." She didn't reply until the next afternoon. "Oh Claire, I'm so sorry. But we just got back from the wedding and things are hectic. Maybe try some kind of charity fund." That was it. No offer, no compassion, just polite distance. For the first time in my life, I saw my family for what it really was. Not supportive, not united. Just selective. Love, for them, came with a price tag. A week later, we scheduled Noah's surgery using the hospital's emergency payment plan. The doctors were kind, but the financial counselor made it clear if the payments weren't made on time, they'd hand it over to collections. I remember standing in the waiting room that day, staring at the surgery doors, whispering, "Please, God, just let him make it." He did. The surgery was successful. My baby's heartbeat was strong again. But the bills didn't disappear. They piled up one after another. Then, one morning, I got a letter in the mail with a bold red stamp on the front. Final notice payment due. I sat there trembling, tears burning my eyes, and that's when my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. A man's voice came through, calm but direct. "Mrs. Matthews. This is attorney James Porter. I'm calling regarding your parents' estate and recent financial activities." My breath caught in my throat. "What about them?" He paused for a moment before saying something that made my heart race. "Let's just say, you're going to want to hear this." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. "Wait," I said, clutching the phone tighter. "Why would a lawyer be calling me about my parents?" Mr. Porter cleared his throat. His tone was professional but cautious. "Your parents recently made some financial moves involving family-held accounts. Are you aware of any joint assets or trusts under your name?" I blinked, stunned. "No. I don't have any trusts. They've never given me a cent." He hesitated. "That's interesting, because according to our records, you're listed as a co-beneficiary on a medical trust fund your grandparents established before they passed. It was meant to support family emergencies, specifically medical expenses for direct descendants." My heart skipped. "Wait, what did you say?" He continued. "The fund was set up for situations like your son's. Your parents have access to it, but it can only be withdrawn for legitimate medical reasons." I felt the blood drain from my face, and they told me they didn't have any money. There was a pause. "Mrs. Matthews," he said carefully, "it appears your parents used part of that trust over $200 for your sister's wedding last year. They claimed it was a medical reimbursement." I gripped the edge of the table, my knees weak. "A wedding? How is that medical?" "That's exactly what caught our attention," he said. "There's an internal audit underway, and we'll need to verify some details. Can you come by the office tomorrow morning?" When I hung up, I just sat there for a long moment, listening to the sound of Noah's baby monitor. His soft breathing was steady, safe. He was alive in spite of them. That night, I didn't sleep. I replayed every phone call, every excuse, every "sorry honey, money's tight." They hadn't just refused to help me. They'd stolen from a fund meant for my child. The next morning, I met Mr. Porter downtown. He showed me the paperwork, cold signatures, fund withdrawals, wire transfers. My parents had signed off on every one. There it was, in black and white. Disbursement, family event approved as emotional wellness expense. $240. My hands shook as I read it. "They really did this," I whispered. He nodded. "They misused a legally restricted trust. And because you're a co-beneficiary, you have the right to file a claim for fraud." Fraud. The word echoed in my head. It wasn't just betrayal, it was criminal. I left his office that day feeling something shift inside me. Not grief. Not guilt. Something colder, sharper. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to be the quiet one who understood. I was going to fight back. That weekend, my parents invited us over for dinner. They said it was to reconnect after all the tension lately. I accepted without hesitation because this time, I wasn't coming as their daughter. I was coming as someone who finally knew everything. When Daniel and I arrived, the table was already set like a magazine spread, crystal glasses, linen napkins, my mother's fake laughter echoing through the house. Grace and her husband Ethan were there too, glowing from their honeymoon tan. Mum hugged me like nothing had happened. "You look tired, sweetheart. Still stressed about the hospital bills?" I smiled tightly. "Not anymore." Dad poured wine, cheerful as ever. "That's the spirit. Things have a way of working themselves out." I studied their faces, calm, confident, rehearsed. The faces of people who believed their lies were safe. Halfway through dinner, I placed my fork down and folded my hands on the table. "So," I said casually, "I got a call from a lawyer this week." Mum froze, her wine glass halfway to her lips. Dad's smile faltered. "A lawyer?" Grace frowned. "Why would a lawyer call you?" I looked straight at my parents. "Apparently, I'm listed as a co-beneficiary on a medical trust fund Grandma and Grandpa left behind. The silence that followed was so thick, you could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Mum set her glass down carefully. It's just old paperwork, honey. We used some of that money years ago for family expenses. Family expenses, I repeated, my voice calm but sharp. You mean Grace's $240,000 wedding? Grace's fork clattered against her plate. What? Mum's voice trembled. Claire, don't twist things. We were told we could use the fund for emotional wellness. Your sister's wedding was important for the whole family's morale. I said, leaning forward. You used medical money meant for emergencies for fireworks and designer gowns, while your grandson lay in a hospital bed. Dad's jaw tightened. Watch your tone. We did what we thought was right. No, I said quietly. You did what was convenient. Grace looked from me to them, confusion turning into horror. You lied to her. You told her you couldn't help. Mum snapped. You don't understand. Claire's always been dramatic. We couldn't risk her draining the fund with her constant problems. I laughed bitterly. My problem was my baby's heart. For the first time, Grace looked at me not as her jealous sister, but as a mother. Her voice trembled. Mum, how could you? Dad tried to interrupt, but I raised a hand. You know what? Don't bother. Because the lawyer also told me something else. They both froze again. The trust's audit will be finalized next week. Every dollar you spent, every forged signature will be documented. Mum's face went white. You wouldn't? Oh, I already did, I said. The report's been filed. Grace stood abruptly, pushing her chair back. I'm done, she whispered. I don't even want to be associated with this. As she walked out, Mum's voice cracked, pleading, Claire, please think about what this will do to the family's reputation. I met her eyes. You should have thought about that before you sold your integrity for a wedding. Then I picked up my purse, kissed Noah's tiny photo tucked inside, and walked out, leaving behind the family that chose luxury over love. 2 weeks passed after that dinner. I didn't hear from my parents. Not a single text, not a call, not even a guilt-ridden message. The silence was deafening but peaceful. For the first time, my home felt free of their judgment, their manipulation, their control. Then, one crisp Tuesday morning, an envelope arrived in the mail. It was thick. No return address. My heart thudded as I tore it open. Inside was a printed invoice and official hospital statement. Total amount due, $11,037, and below it, written in neat handwriting, were the words, paid in full. I blinked, confused. My mind raced through every possibility. It wasn't Daniel. We hadn't finished the payment plan. It wasn't me. Then I saw the attached note, signed in careful cursive I knew too well. It was from my father. Claire, I don't expect forgiveness. I reviewed the audit report. We know what we did was wrong. I can't undo the damage, but I've corrected what I could. The trust will be restored in your and Noah's name. Whatever happens next, I hope one day you'll remember that even the worst people can learn from their own shame. I just sat there for a while, holding that paper, feeling a mix of emotions I couldn't name it. Relief, sadness, and something close to closure. Later that week, Mr. Porter, the lawyer, called again. The audit wrapped up, he said. Your parents agreed to repay the entire amount misused. The trust is now solely under your control. You can use it for Noah's care, education, whatever you need. I swallowed hard. What happens to them legally? They won't face charges, he said gently. The board accepted their repayment as restitution, but their names are permanently removed from all family trusts. It wasn't revenge, it was justice. Quiet, clean, undeniable justice. A month later, Noah's doctor told us he was recovering beautifully. His heart was strong, his color brighter. I remember looking down at him in that hospital room, thinking he has no idea how much strength he's already inspired. Before we left, I paid the hospital staff personally, just to see the balance hit zero on the screen. That moment felt like reclaiming my life. As we drove home, Daniel reached over and squeezed my hand. You did it, he said softly. I looked out the window, watching the winter sunlight stretch across the road. No, I said. We did, and maybe, even they learned something. Because sometimes, it takes the weight of a child's heartbeat, and the shadow of an unpaid debt to make people finally hear what silence never could. That day, the invoice wasn't just a receipt, it was proof that truth, once buried under lies and luxury, had finally surfaced, and I had found my peace in the price they paid.